Live, and it's 7 o'clock on the East Coast, 5 o'clock in the mountains, 6 o'clock
Are we doing
Central.
this?
Yeah, we're doing.
What's the weather like where you are?
That's how you're supposed to start, right? Is it? Yeah. You usually start these things.
I
I
know
don't.
it's
I don't know what I'm
beautiful
doing.
here, wherever you're at. My rainy, snowy. I don't know.
Teach me
Oh,
your ways. Teach me your ways. You're the professional.
we're off
Oh,
to a good start.
Allie, but for real, you're at Smith Mountain Lake in Virginia, right?
I am. It
Yeah.
really is sunny and beautiful here, and I'm very happy to be here.
We have to talk about the weather when we begin. And I'm in Pittsburgh, and we're here tonight to talk about the Queen's Gambit and sort of recap, debrief. It's an after party, is what we're calling it. To talk about what we've learned, what challenged us, what we loved. We're going to talk offline about what we'd do differently next time. And if you if you have your feedback, we'd love to hear it. Just DM us, maybe not in the comments. But
or whatever.
Whatever. Yeah, that's fine. That's right. That's right. So yeah, no, it's all good. And so that's what we're doing. The Queen's Gambit tonight. Allie, first, like, how's your soul today?
You know, it's good. It really, I just got to my parents at Smith Mountain Lake a little bit ago, and it really is so beautiful here. And being by the water, it's just like, it feels good.
Something peaceful.
Yeah.
Good.
How about you? How is your soul today?
It's good. It's been a hot day here. But I got a lot done this afternoon. I have very little to show for it, but I got a lot done. And so that's always a good day. And we get to do this. And this is the first time we've done it. I've been excited about this. Something I hope we'll do, after every series, just to kind of unpack and debrief. So I've been looking forward to this quite a bit. And I loved the series.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this too. Like, I loved this series. I felt like it was different than things that we've done in the past. And it was the perfect amount of time. It left me wanting a little bit more. So I'm excited to like have the chance to talk about it a little bit more tonight, because I don't feel like I'm through with this scripture and this story. So this is good.
What do you think you wanted more of?
I don't know. There was just so much in there that I felt like was applicable to our lives now, like even more so than other things that we've done in the past. Like, this story is just so cool. Especially like how we brought it home last week. You brought it home last week, and talking about like God working. We did. God working in our lives. Even when that's not as obvious, or even when that's not named, that has like, I don't know, that's just helped me in the past week. And so in particular, as we've been talking about that, to kind of like, I think, tune my eyes and my ears and to like find those places and find those spaces where that's true and that's happening. And I don't know. There's so much. There's so much. That's
it was the first time that we had done a whole series with a book of scripture, with a book from the Bible, and it gave us an opportunity to sort of, I think, dig in and see it from different angles, and still we barely scratched the surface, right? There was so much left on the cutting room floor, which is part of why, we wanted to do this tonight as well, to share those things. What for you was your favorite character, or your favorite like week of the series?
I mentioned the last one. I really like the last week in particular. And I'm afraid of being cliche by saying that my favorite character is Esther, but
it's real.
Like, talk about I'm trying really, I have to figure out the right word that is appropriate to say. Talk about just like a powerhouse woman. Like, she is awesome. And and Jordan did such a good job, like, inspiring, that boldness that like Esther uses. And that has been, that was just a great message. I really appreciated that. So Esther, there's a lot to her. She's really good.
Yeah.
What about you?
I think Mordecai, for me, felt very personal, you
Hmm.
know, and
Hmm.
I, I have lived experiences where I have felt empowered and where I have felt disempowered, and so I feel the difference between the two, and looking at Mordecai from that perspective as one who empowers, as one who isn't micromanaging, who calls out the gifts and then gets out of the way. Like that's in
Hmm.
so many ways, it's personal, I think, because that's how I try to lead. I don't always succeed in that. Sometimes I can get in the way. Sometimes I can be a little, it could be a little micromanaging. Um, but I try really hard not to. And so I think seeing him, and like I said in the sermon that week, like I really wanted to talk about civil disobedience. I really wanted, Mordecai to be, um, uh, this
The hero.
what's that?
The hero.
Yeah, well, sort of a hero, sort of like you know the disobedience rooted in uh, a desire for justice, and maybe that was there a little bit, but there's no scholarly or biblical evidence for that. It was more that he's he was just like, nah, I don't like the guy. And for me, like that's totally relatable too. Like, it kind of humanizes Mordecai. And I think that's the thing about the book as a whole also is like there is debauchery, like there's drinking and revelry and manipulation and like torture and humiliation and you know it doesn't really have like that hero's journey format, right? Like some of the other, like David, like a Davidic character or something like that. um and yet like God's still in it all. I think was really cool. It just, for me, even though it may not be relatable to have a 6 month long party, or it may not be relatable to come from humble beginnings and become a queen, or it may not be relatable to hopefully be impaled, or participate in genocide, like whatever it might be. um, there is still a lot of human in the story, you know, and I think that was really meaningful to me over the last 4 weeks. That it doesn't have to be like mountaintop moment after mountaintop moment, that it can just be like, hey, this is the mess of the human existence, and God's at work in it,
Right. Right.
Um, so that, yeah. So Mordecai for sure. I also, uh, I mean, I was reflecting about the last week, God, and that's sort of the way that I try to live and pastor, is to help people see the sacred in the everyday, right? To help people see the holy in the ordinary. I need it, and so I know if I need it, I believe others probably do too. And gosh, do you remember last week when we were trying to like figure out the scripture? Like it's so hard to choose a scripture from the Book of Esther on a week where God's, about God, where God's not even mentioned. And so that was so so difficult. Kind of your BTS, you're behind the scenes of this series. Yeah.
We're like, can we just read the whole book?
Yeah,
What?
right. Right.
Yeah.
And you should, if you haven't. Oh my gosh. It's so good. It's so good. And that was the first time that I'd really dug into it, you know? I think from week to week,
Yeah.
for me, once Sunday wraps, I'm on to the following Sunday, but spending an entire 4 week series with the same book of the Bible, you know, I returned to it again and again, saw different things again and again,
Right, right.
and
Well,
it,
I thought that was, we used the same scripture week 1 and week 3.
sure, yeah,
Some of the same songs and like those themes carried over. And I think they took on new meanings as we talked about, like, as you were saying, as we talked about, Esther being made for a time such as this, and like talking about that from Esther's point of view, and then talking about that from Mordecai's point of view, and like being the one to call out that and to name that in Esther. Like that's really cool. I also think, being able to find pieces of like my own life and my own story in each one of those, that's been really cool. And this is just an aside, but like talking about God and finding God like in other areas of our life, like But then finding Esther and this story in other areas of my life too, I don't know. It's got to be a coincidence, or maybe Esther is just super trendy right now. But I have seen so many Esther things around, and I guess I'm just like, my eyes are in tune to it. But there's a massive billboard on my drive up to the lake this morning or this afternoon with like an Esther something on it, and I need
No
to drive.
way.
Yeah, I'll stop on my way home because now I know to look for it. But
And get a picture. Yeah.
and get a picture,
That'd
of
be
course.
amazing.
And then my friend like bought a t-shirt that is like a nurse shirt, and it's got the like Esther like made for a time such as this, and it's like a COVID-19 pandemic shirt.
Oh,
And I just
wow.
thought that was so cool. Like that
Yeah.
was so relatable. And I like would have thought that was cool previously, but now that we've really dug in, like it has so much more meaning for me. And so that was cool.
Well, it might be that whole thing too of like, when you buy a car and then you start to see that car everywhere after you buy it. It may be that a little bit also, which is exactly why we need to read scripture is, the more we read it, the more we're attuned to it in the places we live and move each day. So yeah, that's a great example. If you're watching, if you are participating, whether live now or on demand, let us know in the comments, like, what was your favorite week? What was your favorite character? Answer these questions with us. We want to hear from you as well. What did you learn over the last 4 weeks?
Yeah, I knew this question ahead of time, and I should have thought about it a little bit more. So, I mean, I think we've just talked about it. Like, I think that whole like idea of God not being named in the whole story, like that was really crazy to me. That concept is like was kind of crazy, and to think about that in the context of like my own life, and to be working in an environment where like, there's a lot of different religions or no religion, and lots of like hardship and things going on, but to like still I don't know, see God in some of those like tough situations and in those moments, and like stay faithful. I think that's been cool.
And trust that God's a part of it, even
Yeah,
though God may not be named. Yeah.
Right. That's good.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I learned so much, just in the preparation for each week. And I think one of the things that really stuck out to me, and Jordan did a great job hitting this in the first week of the series, is, I think that line, "for just such a time as this," has sort of become, cliche or just super popular,
Yes. Hence the t-shirt.
Yeah, right. And it's good. But I think, what I had never really seen until this series and our digging in is what a risk that was, what life or death stakes that was for her, in the same way that things that, the stories that we tell again and again and again can become watered down or become so familiar that they lose their weight and their impact. I don't think it hit me like, if I perish, I perish. When she says that, it's not just we'll see what happens. That's real. And that there is a real weight and a real impact and a real gravity to her actions here. The real risk, to go before the king. She had every chance in the world. There was every chance in the world that she would have lost her life. And so that moment, I think, brought to mind the many instances throughout human history, and especially the history in our country, especially when we think about civil rights and Black Lives Matter and the social movements that have led to substantive change, or the change that has simply moved a needle, the life or death stakes therein, and yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I just think I think that has that even more, like, I think Jordan's message was one of like speaking boldly in the name of justice, but even more than that, I think what I took away from that is like the need to listen and to listen to those voices that are speaking boldly and are like at risk by doing so, and like the ramifications for you know, whoever it may be, Black voices, Black women in particular, Black trans people, like speaking out, you know, even just for their basic, like decent human rights, and how much of a risk that can be. And, you know, recognizing my own privilege, that that's not as risky for me to say that. And like, that has, I think it was a great reminder and lesson in like listening and this, you know, recognizing when, you know, when I need to take a step back and listen. I think that was true.
Sure. Well, I think that's an excellent point too, right? The importance of using our privilege and power, you know, and not just turning a blind eye, right? But that could be a gift of God as well, you know, that we can use. I appreciated that so much from Jordan. What yeah, I'm asking all the questions. Do you have like, what questions would you like to ask? I don't want to hog it.
Me?
Yeah, of course. Yes. Or I can just ask my next question.
Yeah, you got this.
Well, like what? I guess what challenged you over the last 4 weeks? You know, like beyond what you learned, what convicted you? What yeah, what moved you?
You know, you're just talking about Mordecai and like thinking of him historically as this, like, you know, sticking it to the man, I'm not going to bow down to you, but how like, no, actually he just didn't like the guy. And I think like that was like challenging, because I think, you know, I see myself in that, and like see the times where I'm like, I think that I'm doing good, and actually I just don't like someone, or think, you know, like I just have a different opinion and maybe just need to keep my mouth shut. But also, you know, I think it's challenging. We think of like Esther and Mordecai as being like, oh, sorry if you can hear my dog, he's barking.
Alfred!
But we think of like Esther and Mordecai and, you know, their people as being like the good guys in this story, but then like they go on and there's a lot of killing and there's a lot of violence and there's a lot of death. And I don't think that that's something to celebrate, or, you know, something to be lifted up. And so it's hard when like, you know, the good guys, or like your team is actually doing a lot of damage. And I think that's not something that I had thought about before this, like before diving a little bit deeper, reading a little bit deeper into the story. So it's been something I've been sitting with.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. You know, I think that's one of the things I lamented about the series is, you know, only being 4 weeks, and you talk about being left wanting more. There was only so much ground we could cover, and what ultimately ended up being about an hour of time over 4 weeks, you know, with 15 to 20 minutes of a sermon, give or take. You know, and so we didn't get to spend a whole lot of time in chapters 6 through 10, you know, that talk about, and especially the later chapters, the ones that talk about the aftermath, what happens after Haman's death and the king's counter decree, King Ahasuerus. You know, with the counter decree, Mordecai and Esther and the Jewish people, they get to, they kill Haman's family, you know, they and many others who had wanted to kill them. And there is this, you know, these scenes of retributive violence at the end. And, you know, we didn't get to spend a whole lot of time with that, mostly because it was beyond the scope of what we wanted to do. And also we didn't have enough time in 20 minutes over 4 weeks, you know, each week to really get into that and unpack it and give it the care that it needs. And I think it was especially difficult this past Sunday in preparing the sermon, uh, knowing that's there in this story, and holding that while also watching the news unfold about violence in Israel and Palestine, right? And rocket attacks from Israel into and killing children, you
Yeah.
know, and certainly, our Israeli sisters and brothers as well have lost children. I mean, it's I don't know enough. I'm not read up enough to make any sort of foreign policy, statement here. But it's just such an awful juxtaposition for me.
Yeah.
And I didn't quite know what to do with that. And so I think that has challenged me as well.
Right.
What we do with a story like this, um, when in our modern context, there is still so much violence
Right.
and just, from what I've read, from what I've seen, there's it's weighted in a certain way. It seems like a lot of more of our Palestinian sisters and brothers are losing their lives because of the military might, the retribution of Israel, and I don't know what to do with that.
Right.
And but what I do know is that and I believe that this would also be true in the Esther story, that God abhors violence, that God is just weeps, when anybody loses a life, when and that the Palestinian um, people are just as much made in the image of God as those in Israel, and so it's all really hard right now, and I welcome an opportunity to learn more, And so if you are listening, watching, and you're more of an expert on this, please let me know. Teach me. But
Mhm.
it makes me sad and leads me to prayer, and wonder, the ways that God may be calling me, maybe calling us to be peacemakers. Where is the oppression there? Um, and it's certainly not as clear cut, you know, as we might think. That's clear. So
Right. Right. No, I think that's definitely true. I mean, I think that there's so much violence, and at this point, it's, you know, less a matter of the good guys and the bad guys, and more a matter of like these are all children of God that are, you know, dying at the hands of another that don't need to at
mm-hmm,
all.
mm-hmm.
And how to, yeah, just holding all of that. I think that's very true.
How do you
Mm.
navigate that? Yeah.
Right, right. Mm.
Um, so I think just naming it as like in the air, right?
Mm.
Um, hmm, yeah. Was there as you're in your role as worship leader, what was the process like for selecting music and leading us in that way over the last 4 weeks?
Interesting question. Um, I started when we first decided that we were going to do Esther. I sat down and just read through Esther, just one, first time through, just read through it. And then I, picked like some themes out of there. At that point, I didn't know exactly how we were going to structure the series. But there were some common themes I think that in particular, like that boldness and
Mm-hmm.
speaking boldly. I think and courage. Those were some themes that I like pulled out for Esther in particular, and that was kind of where I started. And this is gonna get me. I could talk for so long about this, so you're gonna have to cut me off. But that took me on. That's a theme that is that we use after it's like the first Sunday after Christmas. And I remembered that that's the theme for that Sunday. The past couple of years in the series that we've used, that there has been some really great music that I haven't tapped into from those series. And so I went back and looked at like song lists that were like in the running, options that we were thinking about, or that I had been thinking about, or that the series had like suggested. I was like, okay, how can I, like, would any of these fit? And that got me on a tangent where I found Jenny LaJoy, who is a fantastic worship leader out in Denver, Colorado. And I went in a rabbit hole looking at her music. That's where I found Speak Boldly, and, have like really enjoyed listening to her music there. And, yeah, that's where I started with that. And then each week as we started choosing, once we decided that we were going to do it by character, then there was more intention behind reading the book. So it wasn't just, reading through it straight. It was reading the scripture and the scripture around there and picking out some more themes, because I love to pick something that is on theme with what the sermon will be about, but also maybe is like a little bit more, maybe helps to see it with another angle. And that's true every week, whether it's Esther or not. But that was definitely true for this too.
Yeah, and I think you make a great point, and this is sort of a peek behind the curtain as well in terms of our process of ordering worship each week and putting that together, is that we believe that the whole thing tells the story, that there are, there's only so much we can do in 15 to 20 minutes. And we rely on other pieces of the liturgy, like the prayers, like the music, when we are in person, the Holy Communion that we experience, it all is meant to tell the whole story, and so I just have always appreciated the ways that you get that, and it's not just about, oh, I like this song, we should play it, but there is real intentionality behind, not just like connecting it with the theme, but enhancing and enriching and adding on to whatever the story is that we're trying to tell, to make it cohesive and to expand it. So, yeah, and I think Speak Boldly did just a beautiful job, and we did it twice in the series for that reason. So, yeah, thanks. Is there any character from the story that you wish we had gotten to spend more time with? If we had one more week, is there one that you would just wanted to maybe dig into a little bit more?
I think you named this, but I'm going to steal it. I would have loved to dive into Vashti a little bit more. I think Jordan briefly touched on her as we were talking about the women in this story. But that was really, and maybe we talked about, that was really it. I feel like that we talked about her. There's so much there in her boldness as well. That she lost her life for being true to herself and her values, and I wish that we could have gone deeper into that character. That could have been that would have been really interesting.
Yeah, I agree. Her, her saying, no, you're not going to degrade me. You're not going to dehumanize me. You're not going to objectify me. No, I'm not going to do it for you. That's bold,
Yeah.
And just how it led to, the decree going out, so many good decrees again, but the decree going out about, the fear that if Vashti said no to the king, then that would give other women permission to disobey their husbands, right? And so we have to send a decree to make sure that doesn't happen. What era are we living in? That feels like it could have been, and still is true in some churches and some faith communities, so yeah, I totally think Vashti would be one. If we had a week 5, that's where we would go for sure. All right, last question, Alli. And this is a question for both of us. If this was such a compelling story, and I don't know if you ever listened to the Bible Binge podcast, but the whole conceit of that podcast is that they take Bible stories and then cast them with modern day characters, actors, actresses, to try to imagine them, imagine the stories, let the stories come to life. And it's super good. The Bible Binge podcast, highly recommend it. Especially there's an Esther series that they did that was really good and really helpful in our preparation. But who do you think would play Haman, Mordecai, and Esther in a movie, if a movie was made? Would play?
I'm so bad about actors and actresses' names.
Okay, well, we'll do our best. You just say like the guy who was in, whatever.
Okay, don't make fun of me for not knowing all these people's names.
I wouldn't do that because I think I'm gonna have just as much trouble as you.
Okay.
Who picked this question?
Yeah, who did this? Okay, here's I have 2.
Okay, great.
Well, I have 3.
Okay, perfect. But I don't know. Wonderful. Okay. It's all you.
My Esther, I think, would be, is it Philippa Sue from Hamilton?
Oh yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that would be my Esther. My Haman, who's the guy who plays? I know him most from A Knight's Tale, and he plays the bad guy in that movie. But he's in so many things, and he plays like the bad guy. But he's also like good looking and like smooth and like kind of, I don't know.
I'm gonna look it up. Hang on.
Okay, look it up. He would be my Haman, and then my Mordecai. I don't know why.
Not Paul Bettany, right?
Honestly, I don't know. I'll look it up and post it in the comments later.
Okay.
And my Mordecai, for whatever reason,
did that guy?
Yeah, that's him.
Okay,
that's him. That would be my Haman. I don't know. That's the first thing that came to mind. And my Mordecai, the first thing that came to mind, and this doesn't make any sense, but it is Belle's dad.
Oh, that's so good. Yes.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maurice.
Yeah. Live action or animated, I don't know. He would be Mordecai.
Okay. All right. Yep. I have been swimming in a world of Marvel
good.
over the last couple months. Mm-hmm. And so the only actors that I can think of right now are the ones from the Marvel movies. And so I would cast Esther, I think, as I mean, I love Black Widow and Scarlett Johansson,
Good.
No, go ahead.
What about I again, I don't know her name, but who in Black Panther, the like head warrior woman?
Yeah.
I don't remember her name, but she could also be a really good Esther.
She'd be a great Esther. Yes. Help us out if you're watching later. Letitia Wright?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. She would be so good. She'd be so good. All right. Yeah, I'm here for that. Sorry, Scarlett Johansson. You have been recast. And let's see. Haman, I kind of feel like Robert Downey Jr. would be really good.
That would be good. Yeah, he would be good.
And
he's like has enough of an ego.
What's that? He's right. Enough of an ego. Totally. And Mordecai might be like a Martin Freeman character. Martin Freeman. He was in Black Panther. He's like the CIA agent. He played Sherlock's assistant, whatever his name is.
Yeah, I see
Sherlock. You know what I'm talking about? So I feel like he'd be a good kind of Mordecai. But I would watch your movie. I like your movie better than mine. So, all right, we've been at this for 35 minutes. This has been fun. Thanks, Alli, for humoring me and doing this. It's been good. And again, like if you're watching either live or on demand, let us know what you learned, what challenged you, your thoughts on the series, and how God is at work in you, whether you name it or not. We've got some exciting things coming up. Alli, can you want to talk about it? Do you want to?
Yeah, in particular, this coming Sunday, we'll start there because it's the most important. this coming Sunday, we are going to be on Zoom at 9:30 instead of Facebook Live. Hop on Zoom. You'll see the link coming soon. I'm assuming in an email.
Yeah, it'll be in an email, and we're going to post it Sunday morning, is what we talked about, I think, too.
Right.
And look, y'all, like, I know you're tired of Zoom. I am too. This is going to be different, and we want to see you. We want to see your face. This is the birthday of the church. It's Pentecost, and so we want to get everybody together. I'm getting some company. Oh, maybe not.
Getting everyone together.
Speaking of everyone together, yeah. So open up your computer, hop on your phone. We'll send you the link. It's gonna be chaos. It's gonna be so much fun. But that's Pentecost, and we would love to see you. Plus, there are so many of you that we have met over the last year online that we haven't seen in person ever. We haven't met you before. We would love the opportunity to do that this Sunday. And so come on, it's gonna be fun. Stop rolling your eyes. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. I can feel it. So yeah, that's this Sunday, 9:30 in the morning on Zoom. It'll be good.
It's gonna be really good.
What else, Allie? Yeah.
If you on Sunday morning, while we're there, we're gonna be letting everyone know what our plans are for moving back to in-person worship. Given the new CDC guidelines, there has been more discussion about seeing people in 3D for more regular basis.
Yeah.
So more details on that. We have such great teams at work that have been helping us figure out how we can do that safely and effectively still have our sense of community that I think we have been able to maintain over the last year and some change. So it's like a weird transition going back to in-person. Like, it feels like it should be so easy and natural, and also it's like awkward and hard, and I don't know how to talk to people in real life anymore. And what do people look like truly from below their eyes down? I don't know. There's a lot there, but I'm grateful for everyone who's helped us think through that, and more on that next Sunday on Zoom.
So that gives us between now and Sunday to figure it out. Is that what No, I'm just kidding. No, but you'll be the first to hear, and we can't wait to share it with you. We've learned a lot over the last year, and I think the challenge for us is, how do we take what we learned and apply it moving forward? How do we not just go back, return to old patterns of living, moving in the world? How do we really move forward? And I think the church in particular is equipped to help others do that in a faithful and right and good way. And so we can't wait to share that with you this Sunday once we figure it out. No, I'm just kidding. And then so this Sunday is kind of be a one-off. We're going to talk about Pentecost, and then we're starting a brand new series in the following Sunday and we're so excited about this series. And should we tell them, Allie? What do you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So the series is we're going to call it Actually. Actually,
it's going to be really good.
Actually, it's going to be really good. And I was telling somebody about it yesterday, and they were like, so it's about mansplaining? And I was like, actually, it's not about mansplaining. It is about sort of the assumptions, the things that we pick up along the way about our faith that are maybe problematic or misguided, and correcting them together toward a more faithful life as followers of Jesus, with grace, with love, that moves us all forward. And so that's what the series is. It's going to be fun. We don't quite have it all fleshed out yet. We have some good ideas. But we can't wait to share that with you beginning on May 30th. So yeah.
Good.
Anything else, Allie? And
I think that's good for tonight.
That's good. Yeah. All right. Well, hey, thanks for this. It's been good. And y'all, I don't know, are you going to lead us and go now in peace, or I don't know how to end with?
We'll say that for Sunday.
We'll save it for Sunday. Love it. Warm up your voices because you're all going to be on camera. All right. Hey, have a good night. Thanks, Alli.